Hello and welcome to 20 Minutes with Trust My Travel. Today we're in conversation with Will Plummer, CEO and co-founder of Trust My Travel. So if you've got any questions for Will, please type these into the Q&A box and we'll aim to address them all. If we don't manage to get to all of the questions, we'll cover these in a follow-up afterwards. As always, the session's being recorded and we will share the recording with all of you who have registered. So firstly, to introduce Will, coming from a background of travel, Will is still passionate about seeing the world and also helping operators with their businesses as he's ever been, whether it be working with them or just some free thoughts. He was originally involved in setting up and running an outbound tour operator in the UK and also in setting up a DMC in Oman. Will founded Trust My Travel in 2011 to provide low-cost financial protection solution for travel companies entering the market. Now, nearly 10 years later, and with a client base of over 2,000 operators, Trust My Travel provides a global payment solution, all underpinned by financial protection. Will always happily talk travel, financial protection, and payments, and can't wait to get to a new part of the world very soon. So welcome, Will. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.
So to kick off, it's not exactly glamorous, but why should companies be looking at their financial protection now?
The million-dollar question. Don't talk about money because it's not sexy. Yeah, I mean, look, it's something that's always been around and about, and certainly in parts of the world, especially around Europe, financial protection around the package travel regulations is for a lot of companies in terms of what they do a legal requirement. But what we found recently, and since sort of March, April time, when pretty much every part of the world was hit by COVID, hit by mass refunds, is it's more prevalent than ever. It's not just about protecting the customer, it's about protecting your business. But also I would say as we look hopefully to open up parts of the world and open up travel again, it's that consumer confidence. It's why should they book with you over your competitor? Where's their money going? Where's it going to sit? Is it safe? When can they get it back, etc.? These are going to be the questions that consumers are going to ask moving forwards. And I think tied to the security of your own business, it's pretty prevalent at the moment.
Yeah, no, 100%. So what are the options?
So the three core ones, again, I'm talking largely from Europe. North America has similar, Australasia has similar, and they vary differently, but the core ones are bonding. So I'm sure a lot of the people on the webinar have probably heard of ATTA and ATOL out of Europe. There is insurance. So essentially what you're doing is you're getting insurance from a third-party underwriter who is protecting your customer against your insolvency. And it's all about providing that reassurance and that confidence or that legal requirement to the customer. And then the final thing is a trust account, escrow. So very simply, customer pays you funds sit in an escrow. Strictly speaking, it should be independently administered, and then you as a business don't get those funds until travel is being completed. And there are sort of hybrids of that where money goes into the trust account and then you can release it to suppliers based on terms, based on having insurance in place. But that's basically it. It's showing that in the event of you going out of business, your customer can get their money back.
Okay, and you mentioned in terms of going out of business, how safe are these various options?
Well, they're all safe if properly administered, and by that I mean proper bodies that are doing it. For a bond, you have to go to an independent body who will tell you how much you have to put up, and it sits in a bank account. You can't touch it for your operation. Insurance, likewise, you've got to look for policies underwritten by the Lloyd's of London's of this world, or AA rated insurers. Insurers have had a bad name sort of over the last few months, but actually in terms of financial failure have actually paid out. It tends to be the travel insurance where they haven't. And then trust account, trust accounts, one of those hard things to kind of judge. What we do, I mean, in terms of managing our side of when we run a trust account, everything is ring fenced in client only funds account, and they're administered by independent lawyers and accountants. So you've got at least 2 people that are controlling that flow of money. You've got full record of the the booking when it all happens. So they are very secure if properly administered. And I'd say that is the one caveat to all of this. It's great, but make sure you go to the right place to get it, or make sure the right protection is there.
So obviously the administration costs money. So how much is this really all going to cost operators at a time when money is so very tight?
Yeah, so it doesn't need to cost a lot. Again, it comes down to what you take. And I'm going to sort of not talk about bonds, because bonds tends to be very different in terms of how it's administered. Often that's just a deposit that has been worked out and is the hundreds of thousands of pounds or dollars sat in an account. From a trust account, you're probably, you're talking about a fixed fee, probably based on transactions. So it could be as small as £100, $100, that sort of thing a month, based on number of transactions. And then insurance, for this type of insurance that's protecting your failure, you're probably talking percentage-wise, and people do it in different things, sort of 0.5 to 1 to 1.5%. So it needn't be really expensive, but you've got to factor into your business. And trust account probably has more upfront setup fees, whereas insurance can be more sort of ad hoc based on volume. So it doesn't need to be expensive, but as I say, make sure you're going to the right body that's doing it. Yeah,
no, 100%. And obviously cash flow is absolutely vitally important to any business. And you mentioned earlier about about trust accounts, sort of money being ring fenced and everything. How do the various options actually affect a company's cash flow?
Yeah, I think this has been, where there's been a lot of sort of negative press written about trust accounts. There are some people that absolutely love them. Some people, especially during this, who've shown off about the fact they have a trust account, and it's the best thing. It probably is the most secure thing, because money is sat there until the end. But if you're an operator, if you've got suppliers to pay, it can have a problem. It can be a problem to your cash flow. What I would say is, I do think it forces you to exercise really good, financial discipline on how you're handling client money and how you're handling all of this. But that's got to be weighed up with, the terms and conditions you've got with your suppliers, your payment terms with them. So what we're finding is a lot of people will actually take a sort of hybrid approach. So either they will pass the trust down to the suppliers based on the terms and conditions that they have. So the money sits in trust for the supplier. So they know they've got the money, it's there to be released whenever. Or people take a trust insurance hybrid, where they're actually having to insure the money that they need for their cash flow operations. What we do try and encourage is, where I'd say, I'll probably get shot down for this, but where I'd say travel as a whole industry has been guilty in the past is, the fact that on one side, it is going down the chain to these suppliers. So the person at the top, the principal, loses the control of that when it comes to refunds. But also where the principal has also been guilty is in using that for, cash flow of a business. So yes, you need cash flow, but you've also got to look at the sustainability of your business. And that's having passengers coming year on year, booking with confidence, and knowing that their money is secure. So you've really got to balance that out.
Yeah, and I mean, and reigniting the confidence in the tourism market at this time is absolutely key, because we've got to give the consumer the confidence to be able to book, which will start the money flowing through the chain and allow tourism to properly start operating once again. So just a reminder to everyone listening, if you do have any questions for Will, please do type these into the Q&A box, and I'll be able to address those through to Will just now. So you just mentioned trust accounts.
Yep.
Is it possible for someone to sort of run their own trust account or protection?
Yeah, absolutely. It is. And I know there are quite a few operators that do that. A word of caution in terms of, I would, strictly speaking, you should have independent trustees who are administering it, but there's no reason why you can't actually, it can't be your company's trust account, that you've got independent accountants, lawyers, other professionals doing it. There is no one also sort of checking up and administering all of this, but it comes back to your point about consumer confidence. Are you able to demonstrate and reassure a customer that the money is going where it says it is and being used for what it says it's going to be at the right time? And I'm not casting aspersions on all the lovely members, but I do know other companies where they say they've had a trust account, but it hasn't necessarily been administered correctly. So again, probably exercise caution on that one.
Yeah, 100%. So just in terms of Trust My Travel and some of the services that you guys can offer, do you want to maybe just sort of share some of those sort of key elements that you're able to help the membership with?
Yeah, 100%. So, I mean, we started out, hence the name, providing essentially managed trust accounts. So Trust My Travel as a business is completely ring-fenced by our bank mandate. So any money flowing into that is held in client-only funds in various different banks, and we're always happy to share that with membership-based. It's administered by lawyers and accountants, so we don't run any of our expenses through that business. We have a separate business that controls management charges, etc. So at the core is our trust account. We then have financial protection insurance built into that, so people can either release money early from the trust account, going back to the cash flow side of things that we spoke about, or they can release it for your supplier payments. And then what we've built over the last 10 years on top of that is a global payment solution. So based around the financial protection, the ability to take credit card and non-credit card payments in different jurisdictions across the world to give travel companies a sort of unique payment solution. There's nothing specific, or there hasn't been anything specific to travel in this way, but it helps to keep fees down, acceptance rate up, and we build in all of the protection costs into that processing, and it's still very competitive to what other people do. So
ultimately, you're providing ultimately a simple solution for the consumer around the world to be able to book travel with confidence, and also provide both the tour operators and the suppliers on the ground with the confidence that that money is going to come through to them at the relevant time.
Absolutely.
Sounds like an ideal solution for this type of.
It does, but I try not to blow my own. I try not to blow my own trumpet. There are other solutions out there, absolutely, but I think everybody, and one of the things we've seen over the last few months is not just the financial protection, but everybody needs to be addressing things like terms and conditions. I know you guys have done a survey on it. Security of money, the ability not only to, when customers have a right to their money back, but also when merchants have a right to fight chargebacks. And there's been such contention, and unfortunately travel has been on the wrong side of a lot of it. And what's one of the things we're really trying to champion, moving into 2021 and hopefully better times, is far greater clarity around terms. Consumers actually understanding that they have no right to their money back at a certain point, but also you need banks on side to be able to say, yeah, your terms and conditions say the customer can't have their money back, so the customer can't have their money back, we're siding with them. But also everyone working together like suppliers, because I know, and especially if we talk about African operators, for some of the setups, you need that deposit to the guy that's setting up the bush camps that has no infrastructure and is reliant on that money to build it. But equally, you've got to have that sort of understanding across all of the supply chain, and that transparency, I think. So people know where the money is, but also people know how the money might come back if there is a right to the money back, or not if there isn't.
Yeah, it all comes down to the right levels of communication and that confidence, and working with everyone within the chain, so that we all understand exactly what's going on, and that's the only way that we're going to be able to provide any confidence. So thank you, Will. If there are any questions, please do type these into the box, and I will address these through to Will now. So are you able to advise tour operators taking into consideration their specific country regulations, i.e. around something such as the package travel regulations here in Europe?
Yeah, I'll be entirely honest and say we don't have a total global knowledge of everything, but in the core markets, and certainly for Africa, when we're talking about North America, Europe, Australasia, excuse me, those kind of core markets, absolutely, we can help clients with that, members with that, and guide them on that. Most of them are very similar in terms of insurance and escrow accounts providing that protection. But if people have specific queries, don't hesitate to get in touch. As I said, or you said in your intro, we're always happy to talk and answer questions about it, even if it leads nowhere. For us as a company getting together, we like the conversation, to be honest.
Yeah, no, it's vitally important. Having the conversations and finding out the answers is the way forward. We've got to be able to move things forwards, and I do feel that things are moving forwards. And at the moment, there's a lot of collaboration going on. There's a lot of understanding, and there's a real willingness across the industry to be able to get things moving again, because it's so vitally important for us all.
If only the governments took the same approach.
Indeed.
I think that's the problem, but
yes,
it is great that everyone else is talking.
Yeah, no, 100%. So unless we do have any further questions, I will wrap up here. We are just under 20 minutes. Oh, one more question coming through quickly. So from your perspective, Will, what are the biggest challenges for businesses, biggest changes, businesses are implementing at the moment?
We're seeing a lot of work going into terms and conditions. We're seeing a lot of work going into that side of things, and how people's understanding and how they will handle chargebacks. Chargebacks, for those that don't know what a chargeback is, you take a credit card charge and then your customer says to their bank, well, the merchant didn't look after me, I want my money back, or I was due a refund. And what's happened during COVID, the banks have been very naughty. They've not looked at a large amount of these chargebacks, and they've just dismissed them, out of hand, irrespective of whether the merchant's in the right place. So we've seen a lot of people, getting clarity around that. As I said, banks have got to come to the table on that. And the other side is that clarity over terms and conditions. I think across the whole industry and across the whole world, there's been a lot of reliance historically, largely because of the overlaps of people's terms and conditions around a force majeure and what that might look like and how that's a catch-all in this kind of scenario. But that's been proven to not be the case. And, it's because the banks haven't come to the party, but also it's because there hasn't been clarity. And certainly, and I'm not a lawyer, and nor do I think this will happen, but what I'd love to see is things being a little clearer and spelt out a little bit more clearly to everyone. This is when you get your money back, this is when you don't. And the customer, once they click in agree, that actually that's written in stone. And I think there's so much ambiguity, especially when you bring cross-border into it, around that. But I know from the people that we speak to, those are probably the two core things to make sure that, any money that operators have got in, it goes back at the right time, but when it's not justified in going back, it's being retained. And then what we hope is that people will look at sort of the financial protection, as we said on this call, to entice people to come in the first place and know where their money's going and that their money is secure.
That's totally in agreement with that. And I mean, it's very encouraging to hear that there are solutions out there, there are ways forward, and that we are able to start driving confidence in the market and with consumers to get them to start traveling again. So it's multiple different links in the chain, but we are getting there and building things forward. So Will, thank you very much for your time today.
You're very welcome.
20 minutes with. To everyone who is listening, thank you all for attending. As I mentioned at the beginning, this is being recorded, so everyone will receive a follow-up afterwards. So Will, thank you very much.
Thank you. Take care, everyone. All the best.